Welcome back to the Hot Mess to Awesomeness podcast, a show all about inspiring smart, busy women to put their happiness at the top of their to-do list. Join your host and life coach, Dion Thompson, as she chats with amazing women who have figured out how to make their happiness a priority, and more importantly, what it's really like to go from hot mess to awesomeness. And now, on with the show.
Welcome everyone to the Hot Mess to Awesomeness podcast. I am your host and life coach, Dion Thompson. And we were flashback in there. That was spectacular. So my guest today, Andrea, had chosen 3 kick-ass 80s tunes that I was loving up on. And it's funny, you had messaged me, you're like, I don't know about these songs. I'm like, those are all winners. They were brilliant. I felt like returned. I felt rejuvenated.
I know. And it was just, they were the 3 out of about 80 that I had as finalists. So
oh, you know what? It's a great problem to have.
It is. It really
you have so many songs that you love and that you want to share them with me. And so thank you. And I was saying, so it was all 80s. It was awesome. I loved it. And I found it funny because just this weekend, my husband and I spent a lot of time on our big screen TV watching 80s videos just over and like selecting our best ones. Like, oh, this one was so good. And our kids who are little were like, yeah, I don't get it. Now my girls are 6 and 9. They love 70s music. They're like, Fleetwood Mac is my favorite, mommy. They argue whether or not Rhiannon or The Chain is the best song. And like, they love that. But I was putting, I know. And then we put on the 80s tunes. They're like, I don't get it. And I'm like, well, there's a significant difference between like earthy 70s tunes and like dancey techno. So anyway.
But you know what you can do when they are old enough to discover the show Friends? You can play that Dancing in the Dark video, and that's where Courtney Cox was discovered.
Yes.
So it's there you go. There's your tie-in.
And you know what? My oldest will love that because she is like a savant when it comes to what actors do what. She can pinpoint voice actors and be like, oh, you know who that is. They also did this in this year at this time. I'm like, oh, okay, sure. Whatever you say.
Well, maybe she can put it on a resume someday. Who knows?
Right? Well, my husband is a musician and an actor. So I'm like, is it genetic? Do you just getting this knowledge? Anyway, the songs were awesome. I am a little sweaty, and loving every minute of that. It definitely a highlight of my day, my week, as I record podcasts every week, but just that chance to shake my butt. And we were talking before we hit record, like, we're going to dance now. And when else do we do that? And right now, I mean,
never.
There might be a solo dance party. Nobody's paying attention. You're listening to tunes, but to be able to like be with somebody and just enjoy music together and have fun, and
it's a treat.
It is a treat. So thank you, Andrea, for great songs. Thank you so much for joining me today and for coming on to share a little bit of your hot mess to awesomeness journey. So in just a moment, I'm going to get you to divulge all your inner deepest, darkest secrets. But before that, I just wanted to introduce you to everybody so that they know a little bit more about you. And like me, I fall in love with energy, usually energy first. And I remember our first conversation, like, I love this woman. Like, I just,
me too.
And I'm like, this has to happen. We are definitely going to be connecting more. And so I'm so grateful that you're here. So for everybody else, Andrea lives in Unionville, Ontario, which is in Canada for all of our outside the country listeners, with her 2 teenagers, 3 cats, and her lovely husband. Her kids keep her very busy, and she always makes time to pursue business opportunities that help others to live their best lives. And she's completely dedicated to her work with Isagenix. And Andrea is also, which I found this fascinating and fun. You are obsessed with the sport of what you call the beautiful sport of curling, and how fabulous and Canadian of you. Practicing yoga, fitness, kickboxing, running crazy Spartan races. We're going to need to talk about that. You've completed 2 Spartan Trifectas and multiple other mud races. Oh my goodness. You love lifting weights at the local gym. And you're also a very energetic, again, big reason why I love you, a devoted business coach. So welcome, Andrea, to the podcast and for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me, Dion. This is really quite exciting for me. And this dance party was just unbelievable.
Well, I'd like to do things a little different. I mean,
it's awesome. It's awesome and different, and I'm so happy at the moment. Ask me anything you want.
Ooh, okay, so first off, if you're listening to this podcast, you don't know what I'm looking at, but tell me why there's a Stormtrooper aiming his gun at me right now.
Okay, so that Stormtrooper is part of our very fancy security system in this house. The other thing about this Stormtrooper is that he is direct from George Lucas in California because my husband's family, when they had when they were growing up, they had this woman living in their house who was attending Sheridan College for animation, and she was really good. She still is really good. But right after she graduated, she got a job in California with George Lucas at Industrial Light and Magic. And she nailed that. Like, it actually folds up.
Okay, because if you can't see it, it's life size. And it's like far behind you and it still looks massive. So
let's just do this. Let's just be hilarious. And just, do
this. Stormtrooper love it.
Yeah. So yeah, it's life size, and so it folds up. And she nailed this to my husband from California because he was a Star Wars person, and it's been in our house for 25 years.
Oh, love it.
My husband, he actually attended our wedding. I forgot to tell you that.
As well, he should.
With him, and all this nonsense. So.
Oh, Andrea, I love that, and I know many a husband, many a wife, many a friend of mine that would be extremely jealous about your security system that you have there. So that's awesome. Okay, so you said I could ask you anything, so I did.
Ask me anything.
Now I'll ask you the questions I told you I was going to ask you. So when we first chatted about, the podcast and everything that hot mess to awesomeness sort of means to me, you're like, I have this. And I'm always really fascinated by the stories that we share and the moment we realize that we have a story to share, because I realized, and I've noticed in myself and in others, that often when we're in it, sometimes we're just doing, we're just going, we're just doing, and not thinking we're doing anything special or anything that is worth telling anybody else about, or that it's somehow it could impact and support other people. And I know that you have sort of made that shift and been like, yes, this is a story that I really want to share. And I'm excited that you have taken this or are taking this opportunity to share it with us now. So tell us a little bit about that moment that would define sort of the before times of your life to the everything else after, and tell us about that journey and what that was like.
Okay. I went to university and I attended Wilfrid Laurier, which was a lot of fun. Because I thought that's what I was supposed to do, and get a job in an office because I'm supposed to do that. So I did. And I ended up with a job in a human resources department at the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. And let me tell you just a few things about that. The job itself, I think a chimpanzee could have done it. Because it was very rote, very honestly, like a junior high could do this. However, working at the CBC had some interesting moments, such as the day I was sitting in the cafeteria having lunch, and on this side of me was David Suzuki, And on this side of me was Mr. Dress Up. And I tell you, and I'm just telling you this because
these are like serious Canadian icons here. Like,
yeah,
holy shit.
like really, they are. And I'm only telling you this part just because it's kind of an interesting little tidbit. But number one, David Suzuki left a bunch of wadded up napkins behind and bits of rice everywhere. That's one thing. But Mr. Dress Up, I was, just sitting there in awe that Mr. Dress Up is sitting beside me. And I didn't talk to him. And that is a huge regret of mine. So if you ever see someone that you admire, just, say hello. That's all because I really regret that. I wish I had that moment back. So that's just one little tidbit of working there. But the job itself was very, very boring. And, I found myself having to, look busy, pretend to be busy, which seems ridiculous to me and a huge waste of time. But there was one day that a fax came in, and there was often faxes that weren't really for us. And that actually another funny little tidbit is that our fax number in human resources was 1 digit away from CBC sports. And we would often get all these complaints about Don Cherry.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
But one day a fax came in, and it was about, it was just a random fax. It wasn't really for us, because that would happen. You get junk faxes. Who knew?
Right? It was like pre-spam email. It was spam
exactly.
fax.
That was the step before the spammy email. But it was for a decorative painting school in Toronto. And so I took a look at this and I thought, well, that sounds a bit more creative. So I took about 5 days off and I went to this school. They had this big course on decorative painting, and I went to it. And when I was finished with it, I quit my job and started a business in decorative painting.
Wow.
So that was one sort of before, because honestly, pretending to file in the file room, and I would see, Peter Mansbridge's file from when he first started. He was making $16,000 a year. Like, it was, just crazy things that I would see in there, but it would get very boring. So
So thank you, random spam fax.
So that one moment, and I mean, it just happened to be me who picked up the faxes that day. It could have been anybody, but it was me. Right. So that was one moment that changed everything. And from then on, I had my business. Everything was fantastic. It was very physically taxing, though. It really was. I ended up with degenerative disc disease in 7 vertebrae of my neck. And my doctor said, when I was about 35, he said, you have the neck of a 70-year-old. Oh, okay. So after I had my children, I mean, I had to stop this business when I was pregnant because, you can't be getting up on ladders and breathing in chemicals and so on when you're pregnant. So I'd taken, just a bit of a leave from that. But then when the kids were old enough, I was thinking, okay, how am I going to do this? Because I would come home from those jobs and I would lie on the couch, where is my bed? Where is it? Because I would be really, really exhausted. So when the kids were old enough to be going to school, I was thinking, well, what am I going to do? Because I can't lie on the couch when I get home because I got to make dinner. I probably will have to do some sort of homework with people. Like, it's just not going to go the way it should. So somebody dragged me to a jewelry party. And it was a Saturday night, and I'm like, I do not want to. I love jewelry. I don't deny that ever, but I'm just really tired. But I went, and that night I discovered the joy of direct sales and network marketing, because I didn't know. When I was going to the party, I had no idea there was a business opportunity that was available at all. And then I found that first of all, I wanted every single thing in the catalog. And because I'm not a Rockefeller, I can't buy it all. So the only way to get all of this lovely jewelry was to either host a party or become a rep. So I became a rep. And not only did I get all this gorgeous stuff, but I made more money in one night than I would in almost, a whole month of working in HR at the CBC. So, it's kind of hard to argue with that.
Right.
And I didn't have to go to a job every day, and all that time that I was wasting sitting there doing nothing. Because I mean, because the job was so easy, I could complete my tasks pretty fast, unless I really dragged them out for no reason. It always seemed like I was wasting time. So, I didn't have to go to a job. I didn't have to worry about gas or cars or things like that. All I had to do was sell jewelry, which I loved and was wearing all the time. And it was easy. It was easy. So the world of network marketing was introduced to me in a really great way. Then, if you've ever been to a jewelry party, or any party really, it doesn't have to be jewelry. It could be any of the, the home party type things. You know that it's not really about the jewelry for most of these ladies. It's really about the wine and the brie on the crackers. And, you'll have 1,000 calories on a cracker right there. Like it's the way it goes. So in order to engage with my customers, what I would do is I would have the wine and I would have the brie on the crackers. And guess what happened, Dia? I was doing a lot of parties. And I gained a bunch of weight. Plus, because I don't drink coffee, I was addicted to RedBull. And for whoever has never had a RedBull, do not start having a RedBull. Just do anything other than that, because they're loaded with sugar and chemicals, and there's so many other ways of gaining energy that you don't need this. You just don't. Exhausted all the time. Even with the RedBull, I was exhausted all the time. Because RedBull, it goes up like this, and then you come crashing down. So, I had little kids at home, and, just getting through the day was kind of a chore. So I stepped on the scale one day and found myself 8 pounds away from my heaviest pregnancy weight. And I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do? Because I had earned the incentive trip for the jewelry company, and it was in Panama. How am I going to wear a bathing suit? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? So anyway, discovered Isagenix, went on a 30-day cleanse, lost 25 pounds in a very short amount of time. And here we are 7 years later doing Isagenix. And, if I think of one moment, it really was when that fax came in. And I realized I don't have to do this just because everybody else is doing it.
Right.
And that changed everything. Wow.
I really enjoy that you were attracted to the creative component.
Yes.
I have long believed that it's through re-engaging with our creative centers that we can more fully align with what we're really meant to be doing and how we're meant to be showing up in the world.
Yes.
And, the outlet that you would have had through the painting obviously offered a joy and a business and all of those pieces. And then it's interesting how, when life shifts and what it is that was working was then no longer working for a variety of reasons. And I can appreciate that when you find a vehicle that sort of meets a few of the criteria, and jewelry in and of itself has a creative element to it, and the joy and all of those pieces. And I'm interested a little bit in sort of, because my understanding of when you get something that is really working and is working well, and especially in a business sense, things can start to move faster than you are aware. And as a result, you can develop patterns of behavior that, although seem to be serving you on the surface, are really causing you to go against what's best for your highest self.
For sure.
So specifically, the pattern of at the party, it's, and I'm with you on this, it's social, and then there's this and there's this and there's all this joy. And when you're a guest at a party, it is sort of a high level of joy and relaxation. When you're the host of a party, there on the surface, you're doing all those things, and then you're duck on the water, and your legs are going, and the things are happening, and the business is going, and all of the pieces. And so you're actually building anxiety and stress while trying to maintain this but I'm really chill and relaxed and we're all just having a good time.
Right.
Which then from a biological standpoint is confusing physiologically. And, and then you develop these patterns just to be able to have to stay at this level, but really my mind and my body want to do this other thing. And then there's no room for, where's my bed? There's no room for just stop, just not, just don't, because we're talking about a business that thrives on connection, consistent connection. So my question, and of all of my thoughts there, my question is, what was that moment like for you when you realized that what you'd been doing to thrive was actually kicking you into more of a survival mode than, being the woman on top?
It was horrifying, to be honest with you. It was horrifying because, I had been looking in the mirror a little bit before I stepped on that scale and in a little denial. Okay, I think everything's okay. I think everything's okay. Everything will be okay. It will be okay, when it really wasn't going to be okay. If I had kept going, I just don't even know I don't even want to know where I would be right now, because it's not even just so much the weight, it's the exhaustion that was really hurting. Like, the November that I started Isogenics, I had done 17 jewelry parties.
Wow.
Because it's November, people want to buy for Christmas, and so it's a busy time. And it was amazing, but I was really just I can't even think of a word to describe what I was just kind of going and not really experiencing any of it. Do you know?
Like it's like you, if I may, like you weren't even in your body. Like you're just going, and awareness often becomes the double-edged sword in those moments. So it's like, I can't be aware. And so the part of you that's like, I have to keep going. So I have to not notice. I have to continue to not, fortunately, you found a way to reconnect to not just, in my vision of this, because weight is obviously, it can be a factor that people notice, but often it's really just a piece of a much larger puzzle, right? Yeah. Of health and wellness and connection. And to see it in the mirror is one thing. And then to do the work to get back inside your body, right? To reconnect with yourself as a whole person and still maintain business and still do the work that you want to be doing, but having to develop new patterns of behavior and thought that keep you out of that pit, right? Because November's going to come around again.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Right? So I'm interested and fascinated in how you maintained what you had to while doing the work that you needed to do.
Well, I don't even know. It was there was a carrot for me. The Panama trip was on the line.
Right.
And I didn't necessarily, it's so stupid, but I didn't really care about the trip. When you go to the conference for this at this company, if you had won this trip, they put a little ribbon on your badge that said, whatever, incentive trip, whatever. I really just wanted that stupid ribbon.
Okay, I just have to tell you, because I've seen this before. It's like the gold star effect. You give me a gold sticker, I'll do anything. I'll do anything for gold sticker that I could buy myself at the dollar store. But it's not about that, right? And I mean, large companies of that nature are successful because they understand human behavior. Yes. They understand what motivates individuals and specifically the individuals that they are connecting with to become representatives of their business. Good for them. Yay. Everybody wins there, right? And so I can appreciate that, the motivator was external, because that's often where we start, because we don't usually start with all that internal work and go, this is all about me, for me, and I will do it because I believe in my long-term evolution. No, we don't believe in that shit. We're like, where's my win? Where's my ribbon? Because if I have the ribbon, then I have something to work towards that we can see and use. So So there's the ribbon and you're working towards it. So I want to know about that. And I want to know about when that moment when you realized that it was like the ribbon was great,
Uh-huh.
but you being you was better.
Oh, well, okay. So it's kind of a okay, so the trip happened. I don't even like hot weather. I'm a Canadian who loves curling. I don't care about my trip to Panama. I just wanted the stupid ribbon. But they also have a little reception for you when you go to the conference if you have earned this trip. And going to that reception, that was kind of what made it worthwhile. And like, this is me and I'm successful and I've actually done this. Because in the past, how do I put this? I had been the person who didn't quite get there.
Okay.
So this was the time that I barely made it onto this trip. It was the skin of my teeth, Dion. I had till January 31st to do it. Okay. Yes. The end of January 31st to get it done. I completed the task on January 31st at 9 p.m.
Can I just say that that awareness for yourself of you just the person that being like that just almost gets there.
Yeah.
And it doesn't surprise me then you would stay at the job that everybody thinks is great. Like you work at the CBC for crying out loud. You sat beside Mr. Dress Up. So what's your problem? I don't care if you're bored. So what? Figure it out, right? You're the person. And so when we feel like we are, it does play into that whole idea of not enoughness. But when we feel like we're the one that doesn't get there, that when we look around and people are like, you're there, you're like, oh, I'm here. Okay, I'm going to stay, right? I'll figure it out. It sucks here, but nobody knows that, but I'm going to stay. Because here is not defined by other people, yet we live our lives feeling that it is. It's this sort of echelon of success, and like when you get there, then we'll all believe that you're a good person when you arrive. And if you don't, well, there's something wrong with you, as opposed to with whatever.
Maybe I came to the wrong place. Maybe.
Right. So it makes sense that that moment of your self-recognition of like, I put in the work, and now I'm here. Yes, there's this beautiful party for me and whoever else might have been there. But it was about you, right? And so did you take that moment and internalize it?
Oh yeah. Awesome. I did. There's actually I'll send it to you later. There's a picture of me at this thing that I'll send to you. That I was over the moon with happiness. It was one of the best nights of my entire life. Like it was just so fantastic. And it wasn't a big fancy party. It was, little hors d'oeuvres, and the owners of the company were there, and that was a big deal in this company because it is in every company, I suppose, but these ladies had to have a security team with them because we would mob them.
Right, they're famous.
They were like movie stars. Their names were Bonnie and Teresa, and Bonnie and Teresa were like mothers to all of us. And you just want to, how you kind of sometimes want to please your mother. There was that too.
Yeah.
And that was a huge, huge thing for them to be there. And it was just a fantastic moment that I will never forget. And it was worth all of the nonsense that I had to do to get there.
So because obviously you've evolved from that business and into a variety of other things at Isagenix, which another direct sales marketing, or you know what I'm trying to say.
Yes, I do. Network marketing.
Thank you. Network marketing, direct sales, network marketing, two different words. Yeah. But did that moment become, it was defining. How did you use that experience to drive you forward?
Well, experience, first of all. It was easier for me to build the Isagenix business because I'd already built one.
Right.
So, I knew that I could do it. It's a totally different business. You can actually, market to men. I mean, the only time you can market jewelry to men is on Mother's Day and Valentine's Day and Christmas. So the rest of the time, it's all women. So there was that. There was the experience that I'd already had, but it was also, if they were to dangle a carrot, I know that that is extremely useful. And I also know, because when I first started with the jewelry business, I forgot to mention this. I saw the little ad for the incentive trip, and I thought, oh yeah, that's nice, but that's for other people. It's not for me.
Ah, right, because you're the one that doesn't get there.
Yeah, I don't get there.
Right.
Now I know I can get there. If I want to, I can get there. All you have to do is work for it. And, if you actually put the work in, most likely it's going to happen. I mean, assuming that you have the correct training and, that sort of thing. Assuming you have all of that, it can happen for you if you want it. It doesn't have to be for other people.
You know what? What's ringing for me in my head is something that I see in women in all areas, not just in business, but it's that moment when we realize, yeah, I've done this before. And so specifically, you were looking at, business to business, but they were two different businesses doing two things completely differently, obviously different product, but even different methodology and approach and sales and all those things. But we often negate our successes, especially ones that don't exactly match the new thing we're trying to do. And we forget that we've done these things, that we have done great things. And it's in that knowledge when we can look back and go, it might not have been the same, but I have managed to learn, to grow, to try, to fall down, to get back up and get it. And so this really, whatever's ahead of me is no different. I just have to show up to whatever is being asked of me and be willing to do it. I think the other defining piece, and you already addressed it sort of in the offhand, was that for Isagenix, for you, the motivation was very personal. It wasn't just a business. And, I've talked to a number of different people on this podcast as well. You can start any business you want, but why you choose the business you choose makes a difference. If you want to just be a serial business person and sell as many possible things, that's fine. But I believe in the passionate entrepreneur whose why is so defined that the how and the what is work you're willing to do easily. Like it's a 24/7 job. Cool. I'm here for this because I believe in what it has done for me personally. So that I see that within you, in our worlds, and as I see you in other things and other places. And I think that's the really powerful thing is, yes, you can do these things, and your business or other businesses like it, if you feel like it's worth your time and energy for whatever it is, like if your why connects to the why of the business, right? Especially if you're doing direct sales or network marketing. So
it's always, your why has to be there. If there's no why, then you're not going to do it.
Well, I think there's always a why. If your why is external, like money, it will only take you so far, because when you face challenges that are personal or require you do internal work, you might not be willing to do it because you're not being driven by an internal driver. But if your internal driver is, this has done such great things for me personally, I felt like this is a gift that I'd be very excited to share with others, that then when your business is challenging you to grow as a human, you're like, grow, baby, grow. Because
True. Very
right?
true.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about that experience of stepping into a world that isn't just another business, right? This is a life that also earns you income, right? And how creating a life in that way has rippled out into the other areas of your world.
Okay, so what I didn't talk about before was yes, I lost the 25 pounds, but energy. Energy is a really important thing. And I think a lot of people think that, well, I'm 45 now, I'm supposed to be exhausted. And it really doesn't have to be that way. I have never been a high energy person until now.
And you clearly are, just for point of reference.
That's what, a lot of people say that about me. They the Energizer Bunny and all this stuff. And I obviously do get tired eventually. I do get tired. But before, like, I had no, like, it was the same thing, doing that like the Ride for Heart. My family does the Ride for Heart. That's not for me. That's for other people to do. Well, I did the Ride for Heart after I started Isogenics, and it was no problem. Before, I was like, well, how am I going to get home? How am I going to get home? I'll be too tired to get home. But the other thing that happened, I was showing up for my kids so much more. Like, we actually played tag. I never would have played tag before, ever. Going to school was not an issue anymore. Like, I would do it before, but what I was doing on the way home was dreaming about the Red Bull in the fridge instead of enjoying the time with my husband, because we would walk them together and then walk home. We should be enjoying that time of peace together. But no, I was dreaming about Red Bull. Like, how crazy and sad is that? Right. So there was those things. But then I was, scrolling on Facebook one day. I think it was Facebook. And I came across something called the Spartan race. And, again, that was one of those things for other people. But I had a lot of energy, and there's only so many times that you can clean out your closets at 10 o'clock at night before you start to go crazy and there's nothing left to clean. So, like, my house was in fantastic condition. It's not now, but it was then. But I thought, okay, well, that kind of looks like fun. I wonder if I could possibly do that. And the Spartan race, for anyone who's not familiar with it, it's a mud race. It's an obstacle course race with a lot of mud involved, usually. And there's 3 different ones. There's the sprint, which is about 5 kilometers. Oh crap, I can't remember what they're called now. The super, okay. Sorry, the super. I'm just looking at my medals here. The super, which is about 12 kilometers, and then the beast, which is about 25 kilometers. And so when you do 3 of those 3, one of each of those in a season, it's called a trifecta. So the first year I did it, I did the sprint, and I did it with a friend of mine, and it was just so amazing. It was so much fun. Like, we were slow as anything, but who cares? We did it. Right. It wasn't really about speed and trying to, beat any particular time. It was just about doing it. So we did it, and then we did it again the next year. And then the next year I said, well, maybe I should try to do the trifecta. Maybe. And so I did. The sprint was fine. The super was fine. The beast was in Quebec on a mountain, on a ski mountain. And I'm really glad I didn't see the topography of this mountain before I did the race, because somebody said, after, you guys just ran 1/4 of Mount Everest.
Wow.
It took me 11 hours to do it.
Well, hey.
And, I've got this picture of myself. It's pitch dark out, but I've got those 3 medals on, and all is well. And I had to have a headlamp to find my car, because it was out in the middle of nowhere, and I wouldn't be able to find my car. So I did this twice. I did it that year. Then I took the next year off, and then I did it again. So I did it 2016 and 2018, and holy moly, like, that's just something I never would have thought. So doing this business has turned into a whole lifestyle, because you don't have to train to do the Spartan sprint, but you do have to train to do the super and the beast, because it's just too hard and too long. And it's become a lifestyle. Like, when the gyms were open, I went to the gym almost every day. And I find that it's not I have to go to the gym, it's I get to go to the gym. Because if I was working at the CBC, I would not be going to the gym before work. I just wouldn't be. And if I was doing my painting business, I would not be going to the gym because I would be way too tired. So it's changed everything. And when I look at my life back then and I look at it now, you know, I used to try to walk home from the CBC from time to time because I lived about a 45-minute walk. I was tired and I was only in my 20s. I was in my 20s and exhausted from a 45-minute walk. You know, how crazy is that? Now I would love to take a 45-minute walk.
Right? Oh my goodness. There's so many things that I'm hearing and seeing in my head as you're telling this story. And one word is sort of coming up. So I'm just going to say it and you tell me how it lands for you.
Okay.
Alignment.
Alignment. Yes.
Often when we are not aligned with what matters most to us, like our values, we feel disconnected from our bodies and our lives, and we constantly search for things outside of us to fill those holes.
Yeah.
Like RedBull. And then as you get closer and you start to fine tune your actions around what really lights you up, that becomes like a non-negotiable.
It does.
And I love, I might title this episode, I Get To, because that's such a huge mindset shift for all things, even things that are really, really challenging. And often many women, especially those of us suffering from perfectionism, we suffer from procrastination and we get stuck in that. And, you know, the have to's, I don't want to's. And it's usually because we've come too far away from our why. Because when we look at it and go in relation to what it is that I really want, I get to.
Yes.
I want this feeling tomorrow, next week, in a year from now. I want to do, when the world opens back up again, I want to do my next trifecta, which means that I get to do this now, whatever this is. And it's going to challenge me. You know, going to the gym is physically challenging, could be mentally and emotionally challenging, depending on what you're doing. And so many other things that we do intentionally invite into our lives. And if we're feeling a lot of external pressure to should, then we can start to look at these things. I'm like, oh, I have to do that, forgetting that we get to. So I just thank you. Thank you for walking us through that story. And really for me, just that visual of your mindset shift as it was happening, by the opportunities that you took, one of them literally off of random facts, and then exploring those, like feeling through them. And even that moment at the hors d'oeuvre party with the owners, with Bonnie and Teresa, not Tracy, Teresa, like just like feeling that and taking a moment to be in that space. That's a huge thing. That's a huge takeaway for me, just to be present in that moment, to enjoy it, to allow yourself to, I'm doing this. I'm rocking this moment right now. And then taking that, wrapping it up in a bubble and sucking that in, like and carrying it with you wherever you go.
Well, yeah. And, you know, I mean, everybody, I like almost anybody else who's done anything. You kind of have sort of an imposter feeling at times. Like J.K. Rowling used to talk about, you know, her imposter syndrome when she was doing a reading at the Sky Dome or something. And she's like, I can't believe all these people are here to see me. Yes, we are. But, you know, I sometimes did feel like that, like, well, why would anyone listen to me? You know, who am I to say, you know, anything? But you get over it.
Well, it's extremely common. And it's because we're very much in our own heads going, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, I just did it.
It is.
Or I mean, it was work for me, but
I didn't really, it was work for me, but I didn't really mind it.
Right. And that usually for many of us, I'm full on imposter syndrome expert here, having lived it and still live it every day. Usually the things that don't feel hard, we assume everybody else can do and can't understand why anybody would want to notice or pay attention to why we did it. Like, if I can do it, anybody can do it. Or if it's easy for me, then we just make these assumptions that it must be something anybody else can do.
Mhm.
And so the big kicker is it's not. What is easy for us, or we can do with ease, sometimes it's still challenging, but we do it with ease and we show up to it, is because of who we are. And who we are is created from our interpretations of our experiences, and those evolve over time. And so there's nobody like us in the world, not just physically, but literally from a mindset level.
Mhm.
And so it for me, that's the gold star rubber stamp to hold on to, that if it feels easy, great. That means it's probably something you should be doing more of, and most likely something you should be sharing with the world.
Right. Yes.
So thank you for sharing your air quotes here, easy story with us. It's so wonderful to hear how you took this path and how you are reflecting on it now with, it was what it was, and here I am now, and I get to be here. I get to be here.
Yes, I get to be here, and I'm immensely grateful that I don't have to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning to drive to Toronto to go to a job that I'm not making a difference to anybody.
Right.
And now
I mean,
I feel like I am.
I sometimes feel like there are a lot of great jobs out there. Doesn't mean it's your job.
Absolutely. And, I think a lot of people do get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, drive to Toronto, and do a job that does make a difference to them and to other people. And that's fabulous. It just wasn't what I was doing.
So Andrea, tell us a little bit about what you're moving towards now, and what sort of, I mean, the world is a unique place right now, as it always is, but it's extra unique now.
Extra unique. Well, what I'm looking for right now is there's a lot of people who have lost their jobs, or have had to reduce hours or reduce pay or whatever. And I have a great thing going here. And it's something that I would love to talk to anybody about if they are interested. The other thing that I am doing, or I shouldn't say I'm doing it, I'm thinking about doing it, is there's a lot of stigma around the network marketing world. A lot of people think it's a pyramid scheme, or that it's a scam and it's predatory and all this nonsense. What I would like to do is I want to write a book about the network marketing industry, and I want it to be totally transparent. I want it to be the good, the bad, and the ugly. And so what I want to do is I want to interview a bunch of people from different companies, different industries, and get their stories and write the book about their stories. I forgot to tell you, I did write a book when the kids were little. So I have written before, and you have to just become obsessed. So I'm not waiting for a time. I know it will happen when I need it to happen.
Right.
It was that's just the way it goes with writing, because you have to be obsessed with it,
right,
to make it work. So
you would be looking for individuals, which of course, in my world in particular, I'm thinking there's women all over, especially now, who are either at different stages of the evolution of solo entrepreneurship in that sense. So, and I'm sure they have many stories, and obviously different businesses have different perspectives, and I've always been fascinated by the stereotype, or the bad rap, and it exists in every business, but it's not, you don't see it all the time. And of course, the people who piss you off because whether they're cold calling you or randomly DMing you or whatever, you make note of that. But I don't notice how you're not doing that, right? Like, I'm not going, who's not bothering me with like slimy sales? These 25 people who are my friends. Cool. Right? So when I think about direct sales network marketing, I think about the individuals and their approach to life, and the concept of authentic relationships, and again, alignment with their product and or service. And that to me makes sense. And then I also think, there's somebody out there for everybody. So the person I don't appreciate their sales tactics, that might be exactly what somebody else needs. Great. Go find your people. So anyway, I would think that book would be fascinating to read.
I want it to be the bad stories too.
Yeah.
So that it's totally transparent, and so that someone can be educated about this type of business without, saying, well, you're going to be rich in 25 seconds. And, that car over there is going to be yours tomorrow. And, all that stuff that's not true.
Right.
There's bad companies out there in direct sales. There are fantastic companies out there. The same with traditional businesses. There's horrible.
Right. And there are people who can work the good companies, and there are people who cannot. And then whatever happens, right? And so your experience could be a terrible one as a representative, but that might have more to do with you than and how you see the world. Right. And because as we were talking, as you were shifting from painting to jewelry to isogenics, your evolution of self was taking place. Yeah. Right. So if you had kept on the path of go, eat the cheese, stay outside your body and just continue, there's potential that you would not have shown up as your authentic self at some point. And if we have a tendency to externalize our problems, it's the business's fault, it's the company, it's this, right? And I'm not saying that it has anything to do with you, and that's not about you at all, but I can see how that can happen when we're not in the right place.
Yeah, and it can happen in someone who's working a traditional job.
Absolutely. Like every day.
Yeah. If someone is happy in that type of mode, then fantastic, great. But if you're not, there are other options available.
Awesome. So Andrea,
yes,
what would you share? You've gone through some pivotal moments in your life. What words of wisdom would you share with someone who is sort of facing one of those moments? And it could have been the CBC moment. It could be the moment with the Panama trip, but that's that space of like, this isn't where I'm supposed to be. What would you say?
I would just say, keep in mind, you don't have to do what everybody else is doing. Just because everyone else around you is getting that office job, is going to university and doing this, is, all of those things. If you want to do those things, go for it. But if you don't have to. I've got a child who's graduating from grade 12 right now, who has no idea what he wants to do. And I'm saying that to him all the time. You don't have to do what everyone else is doing. It's harder for a grade 12 kid, but for someone who's had a little experience in the world, who's, probably had jobs and so on, eventually you get to know what you don't want as well as what you do want. So, if all of your friends work at the bank, that's great. You don't have to. That's what I would say. Don't be afraid to explore options.
That's awesome.
Because they're out there.
They're absolutely. And, we tend to only go with what we know.
Yes.
And depending on how close knit our community is, we only know as much as they know. So if everybody knows all the same stuff, then you have to wonder, where are you going to get new information? And what's that going to look like? The internet's a beautiful thing, and online networking has become a really beautiful thing because you can really connect with people. Like selling on the spot marketplace, something along that line. And I think that's such a valuable nugget, because we get so caught up in like, yeah, but what are people going to think? And this is what I'm supposed to do. No, you don't have to. You don't have to know this very second what it is exactly you want to do. You just have to be willing to accept that you want to do something different.
Well, yeah. And the other thing is that, if you decide to do something different and your friends are like, what are you doing? You're crazy. They will get used to it. They will get over it. They will get used to it, and it's all going to be fine. And if they aren't, then they probably aren't really your friends.
Right.
So
yeah, you got to make this person in the mirror happy first.
You
right?
do you.
Yeah. Tattoo that on you. Oh, thank you so much, Andrea. This was awesome. I really enjoyed chatting with you.
I'm just so happy that we did this, and I'm so happy that I found you through networking online,
Yeah.
and that you were willing to have me on, because it's fun and it's exciting, and it's all very joyful.
Absolutely. So if you are listening and you are excited about what we were sharing, if you'd like to sort of join in our conversation, then please head over to theawesomenessacademy.com and join the podcast chat. So right in there, we have an opportunity for you to connect with me and many of my guests, and let us know what you're thinking about this podcast and any of the other episodes. So thank you very much, Andrea, for joining me today. And thank you everybody for listening. And I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the show. Join Dion again next week to learn more about what you can do to go from hot mess to awesomeness.